Welcome to Switched on Schoolhouse Civics. In this half-credit high school history elective, your students will study units that cover civics topics like a new nation, the Constitution, branches of government, government by the people, and relationship to the world. Now let's take a look at a civics lesson to see how concepts like these are covered. In a unit entitled Branches of Government, let's look at a lesson called How a Bill Becomes a Law. Most lessons begin with a brief introduction and a list of goals or objectives for the lesson. These objectives help students stay focused on important lesson content and provide parents with an effective way to measure mastery of lesson content. The goals for this lesson are: explain how a bill is proposed and sponsored, describe the steps by which a bill becomes a law, explain how political parties attempt to influence their party members into voting a certain way, and explain how the constituency can influence the way a legislator votes. Most lessons begin with a brief introduction and a list of vocabulary words that will be used throughout the lesson. We've included review and reinforcement activities to encourage mastery of these important words. For example, students can hear the correct pronunciation of each word.
Writer, petition.
A vocabulary games arcade provides additional practice designed to help students to learn the spelling and definitions for the vocabulary from the lesson. Flashcards provides a fun way for students to review the definitions for the vocabulary words. Here's a sample. After this introductory material, your student moves independently through the lesson, reading the text-based instruction and utilizing the multimedia features that have been provided. Several helpful tools have been included in Alpha Omega homeschool courses to enhance your students' learning environment and to promote greater understanding for students with a variety of learning styles. Auditory learners may benefit from hearing text read aloud as they follow along. Students select a portion of text and utilize the text-to-speech tool to read the text. A number of customization options allow students to personalize their use of the text-to-speech feature. A highlighting feature allows students to use highlighter colors to highlight important text in the lesson as they study. Highlighted portions are saved when a student leaves the lesson, making it possible for them to come back later to study the highlighted passages. AOP's computer-based lessons are filled with colorful photographs, illustrations, and diagrams, as well as a variety of multimedia presentations that are all designed to enhance the text-based instruction and assist students in mastering lesson content. The video included in this lesson provides students with an explanation of how a bill becomes a law.
Maybe you have a great idea and you'd like to see it made into a national law. Oh, you've written it down and it could be rapid transit trains required in all cities over 500,000. Or maybe it's lowering the voting age to 16. It's a good idea. Or even increasing the national speed limit to 95 miles an hour. Well, however your idea, if you'd like to see it made into a bill and then go into a law, there are some things you'll need to remember. Number one, you've got to remember that it needs to have a co-sponsor in order to get into Congress. You'll need a co-sponsor, which could be your local representative or a senator, and that co-sponsor will then take it into one of the houses of Congress. Let's say, for example, it's the House of Representatives. Your representative will introduce it. A committee will be made up to decide whether your idea, that bill, is going to be good for a law. If they vote by majority to accept it, it then moves on to the Senate. If it moves to the Senate, They also will have a committee to study it and see whether it will work out. If they vote it in, it then goes on to the president. The president has one of three choices. He can either sign it into law, he can veto it, or he can let it ride, and after 10 days, it may become a law without him acting on it. If he vetoes it, it can go back to Congress, and they can override his veto with a 2/3 vote. It's important to remember that a lot of ideas, a lot of bills do not become law. But if your idea should become a law, it will help shape the history of our nation.
At the end of the lesson, your student is presented with a series of questions that provide a review of lesson content. If the lesson contains multiple sections, after completing section 1, the student continues to the next section, reading the text-based instruction and answering the remaining questions. Questions are presented in a variety of formats. Answers are automatically saved as the student works through the questions, with 85 to 90% of student work being graded immediately by the program.
Nice job.
A student is given the opportunity to reattempt questions that were answered incorrectly the first time through the lesson. The lesson is complete when the student has answered all questions correctly or has exhausted his allowed attempts.